The hall glittered under 100 crystal chandeliers, the air thick with perfume, wine, and whispered cruelty. Cameras flashed like lightning, capturing every jeweled smile, every sly smirk of the city's elite. But at the center of it all, alone beneath the blinding lights, stood her. Lena's breath came in short, shallow bursts. Her slender frame trembled, though she fought to hold still, to pretend she didn't feel the weight of 1,000 eyes on her. The auction stage felt colder than ice beneath her bare feet. The silky white dress she'd been forced into clung to her like a second skin, more a symbol of her shame than a garment. The auctioneer's voice rang out, smooth and venomous. An untouched gem, ladies and gentlemen. 18, pure, and a beauty worthy of any collection. Shall we start the bidding? A murmur rippled through the crowd. Amusement, curiosity, hunger. Lena's eyes darted to the edge of the stage where her stepbrother lounged, watching with a satisfied grin, a drink in hand. He'd promised to protect her. Instead, he'd sold her for his debts. Lena clenched her fists. Don't cry. Don't give them the satisfaction. 500,000. The first bid dropped like a stone into still water. 700. 1 million. Lena's heart pounded louder than the voices. The numbers rose like a nightmare she couldn't wake from. And then, silence. A single man stood at the back of the hall, away from the light. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black that matched the night outside the towering windows. His face was shadowed, but his presence filled the room like a storm rolling in. Damien Blackwood, CEO of Blackwood Industries. Billionaire. The city's most feared and desired man. He raised a single hand. 10 million. The crowd gasped. Even the auctioneer faltered. Lena's knees weakened. 10 million, why? Who was he? Her stepbrother's face went pale. Even he hadn't expected this. The auctioneer found his voice. Sold to Mr. Blackwood. The hammer fell. Lena's body swayed as the stage lights dimmed. Before she could fall, strong hands caught her. The scent of clean leather and something darker, like danger, wrapped around her. Damien. He didn't speak at first, only studied her face as if trying to solve a riddle. His eyes were the color of winter storms, cold but searching. Then he spoke, low so only she could hear. You're free. I didn't buy you. I bought your freedom. The words stunned her. Free? She tried to pull back, tried to find her voice, but her body betrayed her. A tremor ran through her, from her fingers to her very bones. The humiliation, the fear, the shock. It overwhelmed her. And her hand, without thinking, reached out, touched his sleeve. The contact was barely more than a brush, but it froze him. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Her voice, broken and soft. Thank you. Damien's jaw clenched. He should let her go. This was over. A transaction. But that trembling touch, it burned through his self-control like fire on dry grass. Why can't I walk away? He looked at her stepbrother, slinking toward the exit. He won't touch you again. Damien's tone was lethal. The stepbrother stopped in his tracks, swallowed hard, and fled. The hall had fallen silent, watching, waiting. Damien turned to Lena. You don't owe me anything. Go. But as she stepped back, her legs buckled. Damien caught her again, lifting her like she weighed nothing. Where are your people? No one, she whispered. Her words sliced through him deeper than he expected. Without a second thought, he strode out, ignoring the murmurs, the flashing cameras. Outside, the night was cold, the city lights cruel and bright. Damien set her down beside his car. You don't belong to anyone, understand? She nodded, still shaking. But as she turned to walk away, he saw it again, her shoulders hunched in defeat, her fragile frame trembling with exhaustion, shame, and something he couldn't name. And for the first time in years, Damien felt powerless. Damn it. Wait. She froze. Slowly turned back. Get in. I'll take you somewhere safe. Why? Her eyes, huge, dark, haunted, searched his. Damien hesitated. The right answer was I don't know. But he said, Because I want to. Lena bit her lip, hesitated, then climbed into the car. As Damien slid in beside her, the doors closed with a soft thud that sounded to him like fate sealing shut. The city blurred past the windows of the sleek black car as Damien drove in silence. Inside the cabin, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Lena sat rigid, her hands folded tight in her lap, trying to make herself small, invisible. But her mind raced, every nerve on edge. What have I done? Why did I get in this car? Damien gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles pale under the dashboard lights. He could feel the weight of her presence beside him, fragile, but not broken. And that trembling touch haunted him still, as if her fingers had branded his soul. This was supposed to be over. I should have let her go. But he hadn't. The car glided through the gates of a private high-rise, stopping at an underground garage. As they stepped out, Lena's legs wobbled, but she straightened, refusing to lean on him. Damien hesitated, then nodded toward the elevator. You'll stay here tonight. I'll arrange for you to leave safely in the morning. His voice was low, controlled, but inside, his heart thudded harder than he liked. Lena looked up at the towering building, then at him. Why are you doing this? Damien paused, the question hitting harder than expected. Because I don't want your name on a list. I don't want you to be a rumor people whisper about. The elevator doors opened, and they rode up in silence. The penthouse was a world apart from the coldness of the auction hall, all glass and steel softened by warm light, with the city skyline stretching endlessly beyond the windows. You can use the guest room. Damien motioned down the hall. But before she could move, Lena spoke, her voice stronger than he expected. You could have left me there. You didn't have to stop him. Or save me.
Why didn't you?
Her eyes met his, fierce, demanding answers. Damien ran a hand through his hair, frustration crackling under his skin. I don't know. And it was the truth. Lena stepped closer, trembling but defiant. I'm not your responsibility. That simple declaration sparked something in him. Admiration, confusion, maybe even desire. She wasn't begging. She wasn't broken.
No.
You're not. He should walk away. Let her rest. But instead, he found himself asking, what would you have done if I hadn't stopped the auction? Lena's gaze didn't waver. I would have run, or fought, or died before I let any of them touch me. Her words, raw and honest, left Damien speechless. For a long moment, they stood there, two storms about to collide. Then Lena turned, heading down the hall. But at the doorway, she paused. Thank you. For tonight. Damien watched her disappear into the room, the door clicking shut behind her. And for the first time in years, sleep felt like the last thing he wanted. Rain lashed against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse, the city below reduced to streaks of silver and neon. Damien stood alone in the dimly lit living room, his reflection fractured by the glass, as restless as the storm outside. He'd been pacing for hours, unable to sleep, haunted by the memory of Lena's trembling touch and the defiance in her eyes. What is it about her? Why can't I shut this off? He had rescued women before, paid for silence, covered scandals, pulled strings. But Lena was different.
She didn't want saving.
She didn't want him. And that unsettled him more than he dared admit. A soft sound behind him made him turn. Lena stood at the edge of the room, wearing a simple t-shirt and shorts Damien had sent a maid to leave in the guest suite. Her hair was damp, curling slightly from a shower, and her bare feet made no sound on the marble floor. But her presence struck him like lightning. Her gaze met his, steady despite the storm within her. I couldn't sleep, she said quietly. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. I heard them. Damien's throat tightened. He wanted to tell her to go back to bed, that this wasn't safe for either of them. But instead, he gestured toward the couch.
Sit.
You don't have to be alone with it. She hesitated only a second before crossing the room and settling onto the far end of the leather sofa. The space between them felt like a battlefield. For a moment, neither spoke. The rain filled the silence. Finally, Lena broke it, her voice raw. Is this what you do? Fix what other men break. Damien blinked, caught off guard by her directness.
No.
This isn't what I do at all. She studied him, as if searching for the man behind the mask. Then why me? Damien exhaled slowly, his control fraying. Because I saw something I couldn't ignore. Because you didn't look at me like I was just another monster. Lena's lip trembled, but she held his gaze. You don't know me. I could be a monster. You're not. The words came out before he could stop them. The tension between them thickened, charged with something dangerous. The city lights cast shifting shadows across their faces as they stared at each other, two souls caught in a storm neither had chosen. Finally, Lena dropped her eyes, her walls cracking just a little. I don't know how to trust this. Trust you. Damien's jaw clenched. You don't have to. I don't want anything from you. But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't entirely true. He wanted something he couldn't name.
Couldn't admit.
The silence grew heavier. Then Lena did something that startled them both. She slid closer, drawn by some invisible thread. Not close enough to touch, but close enough that Damien could feel the heat of her, see the faint shimmer of tears she refused to let fall. I'm scared, she confessed, barely above a whisper. Damien's heart twisted. Without thinking, he lifted a hand as if to brush a tear from her cheek, but stopped himself inches away.
Don't.
You can't cross that line. She noticed. And yet, instead of pulling back, she leaned in ever so slightly, as if daring him, testing him. What happens now? She asked. Damien drew a slow breath. Now, I get you out of this city, away from all of this. And then what? Damien didn't have an answer. He only knew one thing: letting her walk out of his life felt impossible. Before he could speak, his phone buzzed on the coffee table. The screen flashed with a name that made his blood run cold. Victor Hale. The man who controlled the underground auction. The man who wouldn't let this go. Damien's face hardened. It's not over, he said, more to himself than her. Not yet. And in that moment Lena saw it, the storm inside him. The protector. The man he tried to hide behind cold eyes and power suits. And maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as alone as she thought. The rain had finally stopped, but the storm inside Damien's penthouse was just beginning. Damien stared at the phone in his hand, the screen now dark. Victor Hale's name burned into his mind like a scar. His pulse hammered in his ears. He didn't answer the call, and that was a mistake. He knew Victor. There would be consequences. He's already planning his next move. Across the room, Lena watched him, sensing the shift. The man who had stood so still beside her just moments ago was gone, replaced by someone colder, more dangerous, a man fighting invisible demons. Who was it? She asked, her voice quiet but steady. Damien didn't want to tell her. He wanted to shield her from the ugliness of it all. But shielding her hadn't worked so far. Victor Hale, he said, turning to face her fully. The man who ran that auction. The man who thinks you belong to him. Lena froze, the color draining from her face. But then, she squared her shoulders, the fire inside her refusing to die. Let him come, she said, surprising even herself. I'm done running. Damien felt something crack inside him at her words. God, she's strong. Stronger than she should have to be. You don't know what he's capable of, Damien said. Victor doesn't just lose. And he stopped, fists clenching at his sides. I made it personal when I took you. Now he'll make me pay.
Why?
Why are you risking this for me? Lena demanded. You don't even know me. I could ruin you. Damien met her gaze, raw and unguarded for the first time. Because I do know you. I know enough. His voice dropped, fierce. And because I already ruined myself the moment I didn't let you go. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Neither spoke, but something electric sparked in the silence. A pull neither could fight. But before either could act, Damien's phone buzzed again. This time, a text. He swiped it open, and the blood drained from his face. You think you can hide her? I always collect what's mine. VH. Damien looked at Lena, his mind racing. The penthouse wasn't safe. Nowhere in the city was safe, not anymore. And there was something she needed to know before it was too late. Pack a bag. We're leaving tonight, he said, voice clipped with urgency. Where? Somewhere Victor can't touch you. But Lena didn't move. Tell me the truth, Damien. What aren't you saying? Damien hesitated. Then, with a bitter breath, he spoke the truth he'd buried. Victor and we weren't always enemies. Years ago, I helped him build the auction network. I was young, hungry for power. I told myself I wasn't responsible for what happened to the girls. I looked the other way, until one day I couldn't. Lena stared at him, heart thudding. The man who saved her had once helped create the nightmare. You were part of it, she whispered, betrayal flashing in her eyes. I walked away. I tried to shut it down. But Victor, he's been hunting me ever since. Damien's voice cracked at the edges, the weight of his guilt crushing him. But he didn't look away. He owed her that much. You can hate me. I deserve it. But I swear, Lena, I will protect you. Even if it kills me. The air between them felt like fire and ice all at once. Lena's heart battled between anger, fear, and the growing ache that had taken root inside her since the moment Damien first stood up for her. Then don't run from this. Fight him. With me. Damien stared at her, stunned. And for the first time, he saw not just the girl he'd tried to save, but the woman who might just save him. The sleek black SUV tore through the dark streets, the city a blur of neon and shadow outside. Lena sat in the passenger seat, her heart racing faster than the engine's roar. Beside her, Damien's hands gripped the steering wheel, his jaw set, eyes flicking between the road and the rear-view mirror. His usual calm was gone, replaced by something raw, desperate. They're coming. We're running out of time. Where are we going? Lena's voice cut through the tense silence. Damien didn't look at her. Safe house on the edge of the city. No ties to me. No trail for Victor to follow. But even as he said it, doubt gnawed at him. Victor was always one step ahead. Always. Lena clenched her fists in her lap, the weight of his confession from hours earlier still heavy on her chest. The man she'd started to trust, he'd helped build the nightmare she'd barely escaped. And yet here she was, fleeing with him, hoping he could save her.
Hoping he wanted to.
The SUV screeched to a halt at a red light. Damien's phone buzzed again. Another text. He didn't need to look. He knew who it was. Don't stop, Lena urged. He's close, isn't he? Before Damien could answer, headlights flared behind them. Too bright, too fast. A black sedan swerved into view, closing the distance like a predator. Victor's men. Damien slammed his foot on the gas. The SUV lunged forward, tires screaming on the wet pavement. Hold on. The chase was on. City blocks flew past in a blur of steel and glass. Lena's heart pounded in her ears as she glanced back. Two men in the sedan. Faces hard, eyes cold. Damien's mind raced. The safe house was too far. They'd never make it. He needed to end this.
Now.
Without warning, he veered the SUV down an alley, clipping trash bins as they barreled through the narrow passage. The sedan followed, relentless. Suddenly, Damien braked hard. The SUV skidded to a stop. The alley was a dead end. Damn it. The sedan screeched to a halt, blocking the exit. The two men climbed out, guns drawn, faces set with grim purpose. Lena's breath hitched. Her body trembled, but not with fear. With fury. She wouldn't be a pawn. Not anymore. Damien threw open his door, stepping out slowly, hands raised, but his stance was anything but surrender. This ends now, he growled. One of the men laughed darkly. Victor wants the girl. You can walk away, Damien. No one will touch you. Just like before. Lena stepped out too, despite Damien's low warning. He's not giving me up, she said, voice steady. And I'm not going with you. The man leveled his gun at her, sneering. Not your choice, sweetheart. Before he could fire, Damien moved, fast, lethal. A flash of metal as he pulled a hidden blade from his jacket, throwing it with precision. The gunman cried out, weapon clattering to the ground as the blade buried itself in his arm. Chaos erupted. The second man raised his gun, but Lena, driven by instinct, grabbed a loose pipe from the alley and swung, knocking his aim off just as he fired. The bullet sparked against brick. Damien was on him in a second, fists flying, brutal and efficient. The man crumpled. The first man, wounded but furious, lunged at Lena, but she didn't back down. She jabbed with the pipe, catching him in the ribs. He fell, gasping. Silence fell over the alley, broken only by the sound of their ragged breathing. Damien turned to Lena, shock and pride mingling in his eyes. "You fought," he said, voice low. "I'm done being powerless," Lena replied, shaking but defiant. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called the cops. "We have to go," Damien said. But Lena grabbed his hand, holding him in place. "No more running. We have to stop Victor. Together." Damien stared at her, seeing not the trembling girl from that night, but a warrior. And he knew she was right. "Then we fight." As the first police lights glowed at the end of the alley, Damien pulled her close, his mind already racing with a plan. The showdown with Victor was inevitable. And now it was personal. The city's skyline glowed like fire in the dawn, casting long shadows over the abandoned warehouse on the river's edge. Inside, the air was thick with tension, the silence broken only by the steady drip of water from a cracked pipe. This was where Damien had chosen to end it, where the nightmare would either finish him or set them both free. Lena stood beside him, her face pale but resolute. The tremble in her body had transformed, not from fear, but from the storm of adrenaline and conviction raging inside her. The girl who had once been a pawn was now a player, standing shoulder to shoulder with the man who'd once tried to control fate itself. "Are you sure about this?" Damien asked, his voice rough with exhaustion and dread. His dark suit was torn, blood from the alley fight drying on his sleeve. Lena didn't hesitate. "I won't hide. Not from him. Not from this." Her eyes met his, and for a fleeting second, Damien forgot the danger. He saw only her, the fire, the strength, the girl who had made him believe in redemption. The warehouse doors groaned open, the sound echoing like a death knell. Victor Hale entered, flanked by his men. He looked every bit the predator, his tailored suit pristine, his smile cold as ice.
"Damien, how noble."
"How foolish." His gaze slid to Lena. "And her, worth risking everything for? Worth dying for?" Damien stepped forward, shielding Lena with his body. "This ends tonight, Victor. You want me? Here I am. Let her go." Victor laughed, the sound sharp and joyless. "You still don't understand, do you? This was never about the girl.
This is about you. About what you took from me.
About showing the world that no one crosses Victor Hale and lives." He signaled to his men. They raised their guns, the metallic click loud in the cavernous space. Lena's heart pounded. She grabbed Damien's hand, squeezing tight. No more running. But before Victor's men could fire, the warehouse erupted in chaos. Flashbangs exploded, blinding light and deafening noise filling the air. Shouts rang out as a SWAT team stormed in, black-clad officers taking down Victor's men with ruthless efficiency. Damien pulled Lena behind a stack of crates, shielding her from the crossfire. When the dust cleared, Victor stood alone, his empire crumbling at his feet, his gun gone, his hands raised. "You set me up," Victor snarled, fury twisting his face. Damien stepped out, every inch the man Victor had once underestimated. "No, Victor. You set yourself up. You crossed too many lines. You made too many enemies." The SWAT captain cuffed Victor, reading him his rights as the crime lord spat curses and promises of revenge. Lena watched it all, breathless. It was over. The nightmare was over. But as the sun broke through the broken windows, casting golden light on the wreckage, she felt the weight of everything that had happened. She turned to Damien, tears in her eyes, not of fear, but of relief, of hope. "We're free," she whispered. Damien looked at her, his heart raw and open. "You saved me, Lena," he said. "More than I ever saved you." For a moment, They simply stood there, two souls battered by the storm, clinging to the wreckage of their past as they faced the dawn of something new. But even as Victor was dragged away, even as the danger passed, Damien knew the scars would remain. And as Lena reached for his hand, he vowed to spend whatever time he had earning the second chance she had given him. End of Chapter 6. Justice had been served, but their story was far from over. Because healing takes time. And love takes courage.